What's going on? What's going on, everybody? This is Devon Johnson with your Showtime Forum post-game show. I'm praying everybody has had a Merry Christmas, and what better gift than to watch our Lakers dominate and bounce back from a loss on opening night. They have come back, and they have shown exactly what they could be. This is going to be amazing. It's going to be fantastic today. I'm already in the Christmas spirit. I hope you guys have had a great holiday. I know this has been a much different holiday than what we would have in other years, but we are here, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have you guys joining in with me. My boy Chaz can't make it today; he's with family and enjoying his time there. You're probably going to hear my kids in the back; they're juiced up off sugar and gifts and all the stuff they got. So listen, we're not going to be long tonight, but we're going to jump into tonight, and I got to start, man, with really what we dealt with tonight. We already knew that the Mavs were going to be down Kristaps Porzingis. So it wasn't much of a surprise that the Lakers won. But what I saw tonight was this, that we have the best duo in the league. Now, I know on the first night, opening night, we had to deal with PG and Kawhi. And shouts out to them. Tremendous, right? They did great. But as far as overall versatility, the ability to get things done in the paint, three-point line, assists, defense, you will never find, as far as I'm concerned, in this season, or even last season, and for the foreseeable future, you're not going to find a duo that's as well-rounded and versatile as LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I don't care what people say about other people in the league. I know KD and Kyrie had a great day today, and they're tremendous scorers. But when you talk about having to do assists, scoring, defense, knowing how the team is going to operate, knowing how to utilize the chess pieces on the board. This duo that we have with the Los Angeles Lakers is unlike anything we have ever seen before. And I want us to take advantage of what we're seeing right now. And let's not miss out on how important it is to notice this. You're not going to see a transcendent star like LeBron James, who teams up with a transcendent he's not even upcoming, the right now star like Anthony Davis, and watching them run together in a cohesive fashion. You're not going to see this ever again in our lifetimes. And as far as I'm concerned, they belong in the purple and gold. This is the city where you can watch games like this, like tonight, and you just know that they belong here, So it was a good game tonight. Both of them scoring what would seem like relatively low numbers, but 28 points for Anthony Davis, 22 for LeBron James. But the reason why that's so important, the reason why they didn't have to have so much of the scoring load as, let's say, other duos in the league, is because we had solid contributions from our role players, and our role players matter. They matter. And we saw that last game. The bench production wasn't where we really thought it should be, but tonight it was there. And really not just the bench, but role players in general. We'll start with Dennis Schroeder coming in the starting point guard rotation. A lot of questions about whether or not he would fit in that rotation or not. But apparently he does. 25 minutes, 18 points, was a +8. Didn't do a lot of assists. He had 6 assists. But really the part for me that where we're going to find a balance for him, where you can tell there's still room for improvement, was the 4 turnovers. But that's expected for somebody who's trying to learn a new team and learn how to run on a versatile team like the Lakers, as deep as the bench is. But in 25 minutes, putting up 18 points, that's tremendous production. And then going down into the bench, of course, you already have Marcus Morris, who contributed in the ways that he always does, 9 points, all of those being 3 points. 3-point shots, and that's good. 3 for 5. If you can give us 9 points off the bench, a few rebounds there. He had 7 rebounds tonight, so he was getting busy in the paint against Boban and others. And then, of course, Harrell. Harrell tonight, I think, was what we saw tonight was the reason why he was the 6th man of the year last year. What he did tonight was the reason why we hated him so much last year and why we love him on this team so much now. It wasn't even so much about the defense, but look at these stat numbers here. 22 points, 7 rebounds, and you're talking about he did this in 28 minutes, and he was doing things that he doesn't normally do. He was doing things. He was shooting jump shots from the baseline, was making them. There was actually a few opportunities where he missed a couple of bunnies going back up, but that's fine. You're giving us 22 points. If we can get anywhere between 16 to 22 points on a nightly basis, which is what he's probably going to give you, and Dennis Schroeder giving you anywhere between 14 to 20 points, which is what he's going to give you, that is solid production, which means that Anthony Davis and LeBron James don't have to work as hard. And you saw that. 31 minutes for LeBron, but 30 and 31, you probably would have seen Anthony Davis a little bit higher had he not had his lip busted earlier on in the game. But for the most part, it was fantastic to watch. Let me get to some of these people here. Big Mac, goated post-game show. Man, I appreciate that. Bro. Adel Del Toro, felt like our first time winning on Christmas Day. Love to see it. Merry Christmas, bro. Merry Christmas to my brother Adel. Can't beat LA. Yeah, man, it did. Today was a needed win. I think because we all knew that the Clippers loss, especially after last year, it doesn't have as much weight, right, as it did when we first got Anthony Davis last year, and we had a whole lot riding on it for our reputation. But tonight really just felt like, okay, let's just make sure that we are who we thought we were, and we showed a lot of that tonight. Of course, there was a lot of defensive lapses, which is going to be expected. Far too many turnovers in the first half and a lot more in the second half. But we saw what we wanted to see. We saw Kyle Kuzma doing his thing tonight. Kyle Kuzma came in with 13 points. Once again, I'm fine with that. 3 or 4 from the three-point line. And then here's the key, 6 rebounds. So he's active like Morris, active like Harrell. They're putting up double-digit rebounds between the three of them. That's what you want to see, especially when you're lacking the size that you had before. So today was it really did feel like a good win on a Christmas day. All black everything on Periscope. Merry Christmas, Lakerland. Get used to games like this. Absolutely. This is pretty much this is the foundational point. This is probably what we wanted to see on at game one. Obviously a little bit different circumstances, and the Mavs are not as good as the Clippers. But the offensive understanding that they had tonight, the way they were running plays, the speed and the pace that they ran at, if you notice, especially coming out of the second half, they pushed the pace. Part of the reason why the Mavs weren't able to keep up was because of the way that they kept running down the court. Schroeder, of course, running point with the speed that he has, keeps all of the defensive players on their heel no matter what position they're playing. And then especially when the Lakers are doing what they did tonight and hitting threes at a 48% clip. I just think about that. 19 of 39 tonight from three-point land was insane. That's probably not as normal. I would imagine it's between 35 and 40%. Hitting 19 threes and shooting almost 40 of them, you can't be mad at that. But tonight was something that we should get used to. I'm right along with all black everything. This is something that we should get used to. Look for the offense to be better than it was last year. You have better offensive players, people who are able to get their own shot. Montrezl Harrell can work the paint a little bit different than Dwight Howard or JaVale McGee. This is things we have to think about, right? Because obviously JaVale had a great game in his Cavs debut, and Dwight did his thing. Avery Bradley did his thing today. It's so good to see the players that were here continue on and have great games. But there's things that we need to change the narrative on. For us to understand, the reason why Dwight and those guys were able to do what they did and the pick and roll was because LeBron James handled the ball majority of the time. And it was such a toll for LeBron, because the only way that these guys were going to be able to get points is if LeBron was going to orchestrate the offense. And sometimes Rondo. But for the most part, you saw a lot of these lobs, a lot of these pick and rolls coming from LeBron James. And so when you have a team like this year who can create their own shot, it takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off of LeBron. You can still get point production, but he doesn't have to work as hard to get it. And Groovenal, I hope I'm saying that right, bro, on Twitch. Hello, it's Alce Acoustic on Twitch. I am now Groovenal. Okay, so it's Alce Acoustic, man. Good to see you back again, bro. Adel Del Toro, I think we found something with AD and Trez at the 4 and 5. Trez is a bit undersized, but I think it'll work. Yeah, and this is what makes Anthony Davis, and that's from Adel, and that's a very good point, bro. This is one of the things we have to look out for. What we're trying to find is what combinations work best. We know that Trez is undersized. We know that he's not a traditional big. He's physical. He rebounds. He obviously can create his own shot in the paint. And the dude is an energizer bunny. That's exactly what you need. But the truth is that he doesn't have the size all the time to go up against like a Boban tonight, who was able to do some things offensively because we didn't have the size and girth of, let's say, a Dwight or a JaVale. Doesn't mean that he's any lesser of a player, but that means you have to change the way you stagger rotations. Now we know that if you have Anthony Davis, who is able to stretch the 5 at the 3, Anthony Davis tonight, they want him to shoot more threes. I guess I got to point this out. The man shot 5 3-pointers tonight and made 3. So he's up from his average. He was averaging about 3. He shot 5 tonight. When you have a big like that who is able to not only defend on one end, but pull the other 5 away on the offensive end, it just leaves Trez down there to do whatever he wants on the inside. Not only that, it also gives LeBron James options as he's pick and rolling. If AD hangs off on the perimeter and he's pick and rolling with Trez, it leaves the defense in a weird space. So much is so that the Mavs had to go to a zone defense at one point because they didn't know how to cover the 4 and the 5. So tonight, we saw, that's a very good point. We know on game 1, we found out that Schroeder and Trez work together. And then tonight we found that Trez and AD work together. So now you know you can run to these rotations when necessary, and you could really give the defense of the opposing team fits, something that you probably wouldn't have found out against the Clippers. But against a team like the Mavs, you can discover that and then learn how to execute that against other teams in the future. Great point. Maddox McLeod on Periscope. What do you think of Gasol so far? Somebody made a very good point about Gasol, and I know it's really hard for us. He had 2 points tonight in 20 minutes. He has his minutes up, but he had 9 rebounds tonight, which is good, better than what he had with the Clippers. But here's the thing you have to understand. Marc Gasol was not built for the Ibakas, and he wasn't built for like the Powells and people like that. He was built for like the Jokic, right? He was built for the bigger body guys. And so what you're looking for, Mark, is to match up against these guys night after night in the playoffs and be able to have a big body. He's not meant to run up and down the court. He's not meant he's not really meant to be a comparative to an Ibaka and things like that. Yes, he can shoot the 3. Yes, he can rebound, as he showed tonight. But his passing ability and his ability to handle half court sets on the defensive end is exactly what you need. Tonight, he was lacking a little bit. But 2 things that I loved: he rebounded more and he fouled less. Okay, he played more minutes than he did the first time. He played more minutes, but he also had less fouls. Before he had 5 fouls tonight, he only had 2. And then, of course, he gave us 2 points with 9 rebounds and 2 of those being offensive. So I think Marc Gasol is still finding his way, but he's the least of our problems, if you will. I hate using that word. But what he is, we're not really worried about trying to find out where he fits. What we're trying to find out is how do you handle the guard rotation with the KCP, with the Matthews, with the Caruso, with the THT? How do you handle the forward position with the Trez, and technically Anthony Davis? And how do you stagger those rotations to find the best or the most efficient way to get points scored and defense handled? And then you have Marc Gasol, who's able to kind of just pick and choose places to be in until he gets to games that really matter. As we saw in the playoffs, Dwight Howard was not built to play against the Rockets, right? We also found JaVale McGee wasn't meant to play against certain teams, the Portland Trailblazers, the Heat. Those really weren't his games. But what we found out about Marc Gasol is he's almost the opposite, in the sense of that he's going to be good in the playoffs against teams that have big bodies, like the Nuggets, who are probably playing right now. So he's obviously not everything that we expected. There's still some more things that we're looking for him to do, but I'm watching him kind of find his spacing. Him being able to rebound 9 rebounds tonight and run up and down the court for 20 minutes is a good sign for me. I'm looking for him in about 20 to 30 games to be fully winded and have a good understanding of where he's supposed to be. His IQ is tremendous and amazing. Once he understands the defensive schemes that Vogel runs, which is not normal. Vogel does not run normal defensive schemes like everybody else. This guy he's really, really set on being able to manipulate offenses to fall into the hands or to the strengths of the Lakers. So when he finds his space in there, Vogel's going to put him in the best position to succeed. So I'm telling you, give him about 20 to 30 games before you look at him and go, that's that dude. Groovin Al-Sakusik, Schroeder on Doncic was good D. Man, we forget that Schroeder is a dog on defense, and not so much because he has high defensive efficiency numbers or a high defensive rating, but he's annoying. He talked about this last year, what he picked up from Chris Paul. One of the things he picked up was how do you handle being undersized as a guard, but being able to handle bigger players like Doncic. You get up on them, you get up in them, And what I love tonight is that he was so active tonight. But look at this. The dude had 5 fouls tonight. That means that he was attacking Doncic and could not care whether or not the whistle was being blown on him, and was still being aggressive on the offensive end by shooting an efficient 7 of 11 and being able to go for 18 points. So what I love about his defensive tenacity is that he doesn't let the fouls discouraging him from getting up in there. And Doncic still had a night tonight. It wasn't his typical going off night. He had 27 points, 9 of 19, but you knew a lot of that offensive load was going to be on him anyway. So watching that happen was great. Now, I know that what's going to happen future-wise is Vogel is going to start utilizing defensive schemes for players like Doncic, Damian Lillard, a Bradley Beal, a Devin Booker. You're going to watch him be able to manipulate the defense so that it's not just Schroeder one-on-one. We're not trying to have him run like an Avery Bradley full court on one player. But you do want to get him to a position where he's able to hound on him, and then switch at the right moment. LeBron James talked a little bit about this on the podcast, where he talked about there were times where they would have like Rondo at the point. He was running defense against the other point guard, and he would hound him and then run them right into LeBron James, and LeBron James would go for a steal. They would get a fast break. This is the mentality that they're working with. It's not so much about how much can this player shine on defense, but how can we utilize this player's strengths in a defensive scheme to be able to benefit and make the whole defense for the team to be more efficient. So if we can find a way to get Schroeder to annoy Doncic to a point and then double. We saw lots of doubling tonight. That's things to look at. That's things that benefited us against Harden, against the Rockets in the playoffs. Learning when to jump in on a double. These are things that people are going to have to learn, because this is the way Vogel thinks. Vogel doesn't think a player can handle. He thinks a team can handle whatever's necessary. And so we're going to watch more Schroeder become a dog, but watch how Vogel implements more defensive schemes to allow Schroeder to kind of do his thing and then back up off. Benjamin A. Pete. Kuz played great tonight. I don't see my boy tonight. And if y'all see my boy on here, Blake Sinclair, man, if you see him, every time Kuz does great, I don't see my boy on the show anymore. But Kuz did play great tonight. I loved his defensive mindedness. He's still trying to find his way defensively to be at tip-top shape. But you can tell things are way different for him than it was last year. Just in his mindset, you can tell he's operating with a different confidence that doesn't seem like false confidence like it was last year. It felt like every time he was defending a player and that player would score on him, his main thought was to come back and let me try to score on him and try to go in this back and forth battle. Something matured in him after he got that ring. I'm watching the past couple of games and even in one of the preseason games where he's making his mark in other ways besides scoring. Even though tonight he did a tremendous job scoring with 13 points, 3 of 4 from the three-point land, which is what we needed from him tonight. He contributed to that almost 50% shooting percentage tonight. How do you feel about Lakers and Dennis already talking contract extension? Big LA 13. So glad you brought that up, and thank you for tuning into the show. I love it. I love the idea of going for the extension. And I know they're not going to continue these talks until later on, but they've already started to negotiate. Probably around February, you're going to start hearing about a contract extension for him. This is why this is important. When you look at the market, especially after a COVID year, okay, they already had an issue last year coming into this season, and they got the agreement together as to how to play. Some players had to give back money. There's a whole lot of things they had to manipulate financially to make this season work. But they can't do that going into next year. So they have to go ahead and anticipate taking that L. So one of the reasons why you saw so many people getting extensions, when you saw Luke Kennard and all these guys getting extensions all on the same day or all around the same time, is because teams know that the market is not going to be great for the next couple of years. Players are going to be expecting a lot of money, and players know the market's not going to be good. So you're watching the negotiation at the table become much easier, because before, like a Dennis Schroeder, let's say there was no COVID, he would be asking for a top dollar. But every player knows there's not going to be top dollar. No team has it. So it's not like he can say, well, if you don't give it to me, I'll go someplace else. No other team really has the room to be able to handle high contracts. But the people who can handle it are teams that have the ability to negotiate with their own players. And so Dennis Schroeder is a player that you're not going to find on the open market that can match what he produces. We saw it tonight. 18 points, being able to be aggressive on defense, plays well with others like Trez and Braun. So what you got to do is you got to think to yourself, if I lock him up now, that's something I don't have to worry about for the next 2 or 3 years. You're not going to see a lot of player movement over the next couple of years, okay? You'll probably see some around the trade deadline, but nothing significant like we've seen in the past few years. You're not going to see huge players moving from here and there. You're not going to see it. The reason why Paul George signed that is because he's not going to get a big deal anywhere else. The Clippers are going to give it to him, and that's it. Schroeder's going to get a big contract with us. And when is the last time we had a true point guard that could score like Schroeder? Let's just be honest. What is the replacement to him? There really is none. So you already locked up Kuzma. You've already locked up AD. You've locked up Braun. You're getting Schroeder. So now you're starting to form people that you know can contribute. Okay, so you're going to start watching that. Of course, you're thinking about people who were available in this last year and who signed with their teams. You're seeing them sign extensions immediately. Okay, so it's what I love is that Pelinka is taking his time with the negotiations, making sure that Schroeder is actually happy with the contract, so that you don't have a hardened situation like they're having out here in Houston. Nabil Murday on Periscope. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, sir. Not really expecting Mark to be a scorer. The more he learns the offense, he'll be more effective. Jay, that's true. That's true. And his IQ is too high for him to stay this inefficient on offense. He just has to find his spots. And it was easier with the Raptors. Just to be honest, it was easier with the Raptors. Just the way that they operate, Kyle Lowry, just the way that they operated was much easier. And Kawhi, to be honest with you, and Serge Ibaka create different opportunities. He has to learn how to do that with this team. After last year, I have faith in Vogel to figure stuff out when it really matters. And that's Nabil Murday. Yeah, he's going to do it. Vogel is not going to sit back. He's going to be constantly adjusting, and he set us up. I'm going to just make sure that we're all on the same page. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Put this back up, so I want to just remind everybody. There are going to be ugly nights, and he made sure that we understood that. There's going to be ugly wins, there's going to be ugly losses, and there could be ugly loss streaks, okay? Because they're trying to figure this out in the first part. They're not worried about this right here. When the league decided to come back in December and they cut that offseason short, they made a collective decision that we're going to play it safe in the beginning. So you saw it last game. LeBron James sat longer than he normally would on a rolled ankle. We've seen LeBron roll his ankle and play for 40 minutes. He's not doing that this year, okay? Especially in the early part. So when you see like minutes start to go down and things like that, just understand that Vogel is starting to adjust some things, which means you could have some ugly nights, okay? You could have some ugly nights. And case in point, we watched THT take over in the preseason. But look at his stat line tonight. He only played 7 minutes and had 5 points. Now, what you're looking at is going, man, that dude had 5 points in 7 minutes, which now you know it's efficient. But the question is, well, why wouldn't he play more than 7 minutes? Why did everybody else play everybody else in the rotation? Wesley Matthews, Caruso, Kuzma, Harold Morris. Why did they get double-digit minutes and THT didn't? Because Vogel is trying to figure out what works. And what I love about this is that you're going to see his minutes flip-flop. You're going to see him go from 7 minutes to probably 15 minutes one night as Vogel tries to figure it out. That's great for us to see, but it also comes with a downside that it could end up being an ugly night. Nabil Murday, Lakers are going to be attractive to buyout guys, so whatever holes we have can be addressed then. I guarantee you, this is my guarantee, this is my trust the profit moment. I guarantee you that the Lakers they're already beginning to scout for bigs that they can get in the buyout market. I guarantee it. It's not because Marc Gasol is not contributing as well as they thought, but they also understand that there's a physicality that allowed them to play a little bit more free on defense that they did not have before. And that if you can find a good physical big who you're not relying on to score, okay, you're relying on them to just contribute in defensive ways and rebound and play their role, they're going to be fine. We saw this last year. The reason why Dwight ended up working was because of the role that we gave him the expectations of. We did not ask him to come in and score double-doubles or do double-doubles. We said, come in, play your role. There may be games you may not play in the whole nine. And just come and prove yourself. Non-guaranteed contract or not, just come in and prove yourself. If we can find a guy like that who's coming in trying to prove themselves, even if their stats don't make sense, having a physical big is something that I know Rob Pelinka is going to be talking with LeBron and AD about and Vogel about as they move into the second half of the season. But you're right. They are going to be very attractive. They're already attractive because it's LA. They're already attractive because they're champions. They're already attractive because they know that if they're going to get a ring, they can probably get one with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. They know that these things are very much possibilities. So those things by themselves. But outside of that, last year showed a lot of buyout players or a lot of players who didn't normally get a chance. you have an opportunity to resurrect your career. They saw that with Dwight. They really kind of saw that with JaVale. I know JaVale's kind of been in the league, but they saw JaVale kind of have a reemergence, which allowed him to get a starting minutes in Cleveland. So the idea is that when you're looking for a buyout player, you're looking for someone where the needs match. They need a place to redeem themselves. You need someone to fill a hole. You put those two things together, the contract makes sense, and then you ride out and win a championship. Merry Christmas, cousin. Lakers win. That's right, Pepper Potts. Good to see you. On the other end, Doncic was having a field day with Kuzma guarding him. Doncic is, and to be honest, Doncic really didn't have as much a field day as we would think. He did score 27 points, but he was 9 of 19 and 2 of 5 from 3. And that is not a typical Doncic night. And the one thing to pay attention to was the fact that he didn't go for a double-double or a triple-double. Okay, these are things that people are expecting him to do on the regular, and he couldn't do that tonight. Part of it was because Kristaps Porzingis was out. But collectively, the team is trying to figure out defensive assignments. And that's one thing I know. Like we saw last game, Paul George was cooking people. And tonight you saw a couple people get off, and Doncic was one of those people. But you're going to watch as Vogel is collecting information to find out how do we stop players. What he learned is, for Doncic, if you double him, then you're good. So even if Kuzma was getting cooked, they would send help to double, and that eventually helped to keep him under 30 points, which Doncic can go for 30 almost every night if he wants. He really could average 30 points if he wanted to. But tonight he couldn't get that done. Winston mobile apps. Kuz seems to be have something going with Trez. Are we noticing the trend here? Let me go back to it. Are we noticing the trend here that role players matter? Trez has found himself working with Schroeder. Trez has now found himself working with AD. And Trez is also finding himself working with Kuzma. What we're noticing is that Trez is a great fit, period. This is a guy that I would look at and go, you have a great season, let's extend him. This is another one of those guys. Okay, I love the way he's working right now. The thing that we know though is that you got to pair him with somebody on the defensive end that can help hide some of his defensive inefficiency. He jumps too early sometimes when it comes down to trying to block. He, a lot of times he'll foul. Things like that happen, right? But one of the things that I saw tonight that I loved, especially with him working with AD, talking about him working with other players, there was a point where AD was driving to the hole, and this is where Trez got hurt, and they were reviewing the foul to find out, and he got pushed from behind. The reason why he got pushed from behind is because he knew AD was getting ready to drive to the hole and was sealing his man off of the basket. It's exactly what he should do. Anticipate what's getting ready to happen and sealing out. He wasn't calling for the ball. He wasn't calling for AD to throw a lob. None of that. He knew as soon as AD caught it out by the perimeter, seal my man out and let AD get to the hole. And of course, it didn't end the way that it should have. And AD noticed what happened. But that's the kind of mentality you want. Somebody who's aggressive but also understands how to play with other players. And he did exactly that tonight. Kyle Davis, Merry Christmas, my guy. I agree with Rob scouting backup bigs on the buyout market. Once we shore that up, it's a wrap. Yeah, that's going to be a huge piece. And I really do think, this is going to sound crazy, but my dark horse key piece for the Lakers, I really do believe is going to be Horton Tucker. I think there's something there with this kid. He fouls too much. Okay, 7 minutes, 2 fouls is a lot of fouls. Okay, especially because every time he's fouling, he's trying to guard someone going to the hole, holding his hands up. They create contact, and then he wonders why he's getting called for the foul. Because in his mind, as long as his hands are up, he's fine. But all the player has to do is draw contact when he gets that close to the rim. If we can get his defensive understanding together closer to the paint, I think that kid, giving him 15 to 20 minutes, could really turn around and make something happen on this team that other teams cannot prepare for. You can't prepare for his length. You can't prepare for the way he drives to the hole, and you sure can't prepare for his confidence, because there is no person on that court that he is afraid of. This man has seen it. He's taken championship pictures, has a ring. He does not care. He is walking into every game knowing that he has this prime 3 or 4 years ahead of him, and he's prepping himself now for the league, okay? So I really do think he's going to be a dark horse. So I think a buyout, a big buyout, and then being able to get THT more minutes and letting him thrive is going to be great. One thing to point out tonight, and this is probably the biggest spot that we have to continue to point out, and this is not good. This is one of the things that plagued us last year, and we were able to overcome it in other ways. But our free throw shooting, this has nothing to do with offensive schemes, defense. It has nothing to do with rest, none of that stuff. Free throws is about making free throws, period. We shot 70% at 17 for 24 tonight. And I said it. If we're shooting sub 75%, it's a problem. Okay? We really should be 80%. With people like Anthony Davis, KCP, we should be higher on that free throw shooting list. But look, and here are some of the trouble spots. Montrezl Harrell, 2 for 5. So somebody who's super active, we have to know in our head he's going to be about a 50% free throw shooter. Okay, now that's not much different from Dwight, not much different from JaVale. That's fine. But when you start looking at like Anthony Davis going 5 of 7, we're looking for Anthony Davis to be in the 90 percentile. This should be a goal of his. What he really should have, regardless of trying to be MVP, is to be an MVP with a high free throw shooting percentage. That's going to matter, especially in crunch time. LeBron James was 3 of 4 tonight. That's a good night for LeBron, but a 5 of 7 for Anthony Davis is bad. So we really need him to be the premier free throw shooter on this team. But tonight, we just missed him. Okay, Schroeder missed 1. It looks like, Harrell missed 3, and he was probably the reason why we were 70%. If he would have made those 3, we would have been a much higher percentage. But the free throw shooting has to get better, and these teams have got to be available. Who are the probable big buyouts? I agree. We need a gritty and big enforcer. Okay, so here's a few things to think about when we talk about bigs. The buyouts are going to be in a couple of different senses. It's not going to be because of players playing badly necessarily. It's going to be more about what the team is looking to do and how they're looking to compensate. So the 3 things that I'm looking at when you talk about COVID, okay, that's going to adjust the way teams play, which means it's going to adjust the team's record, which means it's going to adjust who gets into the playoffs, which eventually will cause the buyout market to shift. Okay, we already saw the Houston Rockets, who are in utter disarray right now. I mean, utter disarray right now. The Houston Rockets are really, and to be honest with you, I think they'll be fine without James Harden. They're not going to make the playoffs, but you look at that team and you go, man, like they already had a game postponed. When you start seeing people like the Rockets and the Wizards, and you start just seeing people start having these random postponements, and you start seeing these games, and they start losing games they shouldn't lose, and schedules start getting all messed up, it's gonna affect the way teams project into the playoffs. It just is, okay? It just is. It has happened to the NFL. It happened to the Major League Baseball. The more you begin to shuffle around an already crazy and hectic season, it's going to affect the way teams play. And if teams aren't deep, you're going to start seeing them sell way quicker than other teams. And so it's hard to say what the buyout is going to be because we don't know what the schedule is going to look like. Prayerfully, the Lakers don't have any of these issues. But all it takes is for one team to postpone to mess the whole schedule up. Now, the Lakers had this kind of problem last year. When Kobe died, we had to change a game around. And then COVID hit. And then we ended up having to switch the whole thing, and not all the games were even played. But that's not going to happen this year. The idea is that if it gets to a certain point, in regards to these schedules getting mixed around and stuff like that, they'll just extend out, and then they'll start smushing stuff together. I'm telling you, it's a recipe to make the standings in the playoffs look really wonky, and they probably won't be as accurate as they should be. You might see certain teams lower in the seeding who should be higher, but just because of all the craziness with COVID, it makes them go lower. There are some teams that could have made the playoffs, and they were on the fringe, and you might see them fall out. You may not see Portland make the playoffs. They probably won't, right? Golden State's probably not going to make the playoffs. There are teams like that you want to look at and go, okay, who could they end up buying out that could benefit us, right? Those are things you're kind of looking at. Win some mobile apps. You're right. Horton Tucker is going to be a key for us late in the year. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Listen, so today we won 138-115. The defense was not where we really wanted it to be, but the offense was clicking so well. I mean, you really can't be mad, right? But once again, this season is far different than the rest, okay? So it's pretty much every 2 days you got something going on. So now we have the Timberwolves coming up in a couple of days. The Timberwolves are coming up on the 27th. This is going to be a little bit of a later game. The Timberwolves are decent, but they're not great, okay? The Timberwolves are decent, but they're not great. This is an opportunity for the Lakers to begin to play with rotations and try to pull something off. Now you have another athletic big like Karl Anthony Towns, but they also have Malik Beasley, who's averaging 23 points per game. Their leading assist average person is Karl Anthony Towns, okay? And he's also shooting the highest highest field goal percentage. So But when you're looking at the Timberwolves, it's an opportunity for you to really find out what your defense can do against a big, against a Malik Beasley. It gives you an opportunity to kind of play with that. The Lakers are already in a position where they're starting to gain momentum and grow. Okay, now what you saw tonight was a maturing step forward. You're going to see more of that, but you're going to see experimentation happen in that maturing against teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves. And so this will be a great game to watch, if for nothing else, to watch how Vogel plays with the lineups and the rotations outside of the starting lineup. What you're seeing with the starting lineup, I think, is pretty much what you're going to get. They asked Vogel tonight how he felt about Dennis Schroeder, and they asked him about him starting. And Vogel pretty much gave him the vote of confidence, saying, I love the way he came in here. I love his mindset. I love his confidence. I love all that about him. And he's earned the right to be able to compete for that job. And so I don't really see anybody else who's going to be able to take that position. Obviously, LeBron would be running point, and then you would have somebody else come in. But in a season like this kind of season, it's better to have Schroeder into the starting lineup in case LeBron does have to sit. You have somebody who's already acclimated with the starting unit, and you just have to swap somebody else in, which is easier. It's easier to swap in one guy to fit with the other four than it is to switch in a point guard who's not used to the other four on the floor. I think what he's doing right now makes the most sense going forward. LeBron's going to sit some games. He's not going to be running point nearly as much as he was last year until probably the playoffs. Okay, what you're probably going to see is much more of a Goran Dragic. What was the boy who took over for him? Tyler Hero kind of situation. Dragic and Kendrick Nunn, right? Where you see one person dominating during the regular season, and then you flip them in the playoffs. You let the other guy kind of get the role in the playoffs. You're probably going to see more of that. Dennis Schroeder's going to be running a lot of point during the season, giving LeBron a rest. And then when it's time to activate playoff Bron, you're going to see Schroeder kind of take a step back. Still in the starting lineup, but probably won't be handling the ball nearly as much. Do you think THT getting more minutes will hurt AC? No, like I said tonight, AC got more minutes than THT. AC also hit two 3-pointers, which is good. That's a good sign to see. But no, the reason why is because THT is struggling on defense a little bit. Okay, we're surprised because this kid's a rookie and he's doing great things, and he's shown himself to be far more better than what we anticipated. Nobody really even knew who the kid was when we drafted him. And then we started watching him in the G League, and we're like, yo, we should give this kid a shot. We know what Caruso is. Caruso is not there for offense, even though he can kind of handle the ball. But what he is there for is his defensive presence. And Caruso is kind of solidified his spot in that. There's not too many players that are as versatile with him in that. And the biggest reason why THT will not deduce or reduce Alex Caruso is because Caruso and LeBron together are a dangerous combo. That was all season. That had nothing to do with just the bubble. The entire year, Caruso and LeBron played well together. And so that's one of the things that Vogel has noticed. He's taken note of it, and he knows that is going to be the strength of Alex Caruso. So that's one thing that THT doesn't have necessarily right now. He does not have a rapport with LeBron the way that Caruso does. In a season like this, where the Lakers have already shipped out a lot of veterans that LeBron has already known throughout the league, Dwight, JaVale, Danny Green, like those people are gone. Avery Bradley, these are people that he knew and can trust. He's seen them in other teams. THT is just straight out the G League for the most part. And so Bron doesn't have that rapport with him, and it's going to take some games for him to trust. He loves the kid, believes in the kid, and knows the kid can handle it. But I think when it comes down to if I had to sit in if I had to get into a Game 7 final situation right now, today, who would I trust in the starting lineup more, Caruso or THT? And I think LeBron would trust Caruso, not because THT is not better, but because him and Caruso work so well together. And they make those things go. I agree. Definitely got to look into extending Trez and Schroeder. Yeah. Solidify your bench now. Ride out this wave. Make sure you can last the next couple of years and it's going to be some years before the NBA gets back to normal spending. If we've forgotten, some of us have forgotten how high the spending got going into this year. Now, of course, the bargaining agreement allowed for people to sign huge contracts, like your boy who just signed that huge contract. We're seeing that, right? We're able to see that now, but going forward, the next bargaining agreement is not going to have that. So you're going to start seeing a lot of these contracts come down. We got Trez for $19 million. The sixth man of the year for $19 million. That's not bad. That's pretty much a good discount. Lock him up now. Gruvenoll, the Clippers are giving it to Denver. Yeah, Denver is Denver's having a hard time this year, and I think it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for them. I don't see them playing as well as they did last year, or at least not coming out as high as they did last year. I just don't see it happen. But yeah, I think they're gonna struggle. They're gonna struggle a bit. Utah Jazz, I think, are gonna be good, but the Nuggets are gonna struggle. But they'll bounce back at some point. They'll bounce back. But in the beginning, yeah, they're gonna struggle a bit, and that's okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. We've already seen them go down by double digits to the Clippers and come right back and win it. So I don't think anybody on that team is worried. And of course, Mike Malone ain't, because he knows. And this might just be a revenge game for the Clippers trying to get it in. Ray Colazzo on Periscope. If Ariza's available in the buyout market, would you sign him? We asked this question on the last post-game show with Chaz. And I was kind of on the fence about it, but then I started thinking about it. Yeah, I probably wouldn't. Our issue is really not defensive guards or forwards. It really is a big. That's really where we need to shore up the line. Because if something happens to Marc Gasol, your backup is pretty much 80 at the 5, which you really don't want to extend that out. And or it's really Trez, and you have to kind of run like a Trez, Kuzma, kind of weird Markieff Morris, kind of, small ball essentially to get through games. So Ariza really wouldn't benefit us as well. Plus, he's nowhere near the same Ariza that we thought he was. I know in our minds we're imagining Ariza coming back, playing amazing, but that's probably not what he's going to do. He's not like Avery Bradley, where it's like he had a couple of injuries and he's trying to bounce back from that. Trev has been in the league for a long... Think about this. Think about Trev Ariza was on the last Lakers championship squad. He was right around in that Kobe time, right? That dude been around for a long time, okay? Not to say Marc Gasol hasn't. Marc Gasol's been around for a long time too. But what you would need Trev to do, he can't do it. You need somebody who's going to be physical down in the paint and can handle bigs. That's not necessarily what he does right now, and he's nowhere near as quick. And it would take him a while to kind of get acclimated and back up and going. So I think he would almost end up being in like a Dion Waiters, J.R. Smith position, where it's like, man, break glass in case of emergency, and hopefully they pop, and hopefully he can give us a little bit of something. But for the most part, your expectations are already low for that. So. With that being said, guys, man, I have really loved being with y'all tonight. Of course, once again, the Lakers are playing again in just 2 days. So day after tomorrow, 48 hours, they're right back at it again. And I just don't know how this is working for these guys playing this many games this close back to back. But we'll be here and we'll be able to kind of give you guys the rundown post game. I believe they're going to beat the Timberwolves. And I think they're going to make a statement. I think you're going to see growth and maturation. You're going to see some experimentation in the roster. But most of all, man, what I really want to see is our free throw shooting getting better. I want to see us get to the cup, draw a foul on an and one, and be able to make the shot and capitalize on that and one. Until we start getting those free throws together, I'm going to be a little bit worried going into the playoffs. Because if you watch the Nets tonight, they ain't playing. They ain't no joke, okay? Every point you get, you're going to need, okay? What we saw with the Clippers, we know. We need to get with them. We need to get with them, man. So, yeah, thanks for doing the show, Devon. Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for y'all hanging out with me. I know I tried doing it with the pregame, but we couldn't get it together. But let's do this, man. Let's do this. Next time that Chaz can't make it, I'm going to bring one of you guys on live. Okay, let's just do that. Just remind me in the chat the next time. I'll shoot you the link. You'll jump in with me, and we'll just talk it through. I'll just pick somebody random on here that can jump in with me. And it doesn't matter what platform you're on. You'll be able to jump in on here, and we'll get it going, okay? So Merry Christmas. If I don't see you on the next show, then a Happy New Year to you as well. And until we meet again, remember, job's not finished. Job finished? Job not finished. No more LeBron air balls. Yeah, that's going to be our Christmas gift. No more LeBron air balls. I'll catch you guys on the next one. December 27th against the